Thank you so much for joining us. You're watching All Angles. I'm Dion Jax Miller. And a very special welcome to our viewers on onespotmedia.com. Now, last week we spoke about the Cornwall Regional Hospital and the problems there, the air quality issues there that have been affecting staff. And we spoke to 3 nurses and 2 doctors who spoke to us about the problems they've been having, as well as their concerns in terms of how this whole situation has been dealt with. We're returning to that situation at the Cornwall Regional Hospital. We want to talk to some of the spokespersons, some of the stakeholders, some of the experts in terms of where we go from here. We should say that we had invited Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton to be on the program. He had accepted, but this morning cancelled, saying he had to unexpectedly be out of town. Joining me in studio, I have Associate Professor at the School of Public Health at the University of Technology and Lecturer in Toxicology, Dr. Alveston Bailey, and also with us, the head of the School of Public Health and Health Technology at UTech, Professor Winston Davidson. A little later in the program, we'll be joined by the immediate past president of the Nurses Association of Jamaica, Janet Kaur-Farr, also president of the Jamaica Medical Doctors Association, Dr. Elon Thompson. Just before we start talking to our guests in studio, though, I just want to remind you of one of the things that one of our guests last week had to say.
I'm worried about my long-term health because I don't know where I'm heading for. I don't know, is there any compensation? Other persons I know are suffering likewise. There are individuals who actually fainted, who were on the ward, have to be removed, relocated. They're having rashes on the skin, burning, tightness of the chest every now and again.
Cardiac issues.
Yes, having heart problems, seizures, and we just don't know. But for me, I'm really ill right now. I know that.
Tell me why you say that.
I've been to the pulmonologist. I've done an open lung biopsy. I've done a bronchial wash. I've done all the tests that is possible. I've been diagnosed with fibrosis of the lung.
Tell us what that is.
All right, fibrosis of the lung really is, as she has spoken about the scarring of it. So what happens is, because of the continuous, whatever it be, lower respiratory tract infection that has happened, it has put the lungs through trauma. So it is not as recalable as it is, as you know, the alveoli, as it is with breathing and everything. So that particular area of the lung, whether it be all lobes or a particular lobe, cannot function as it usually does. Recoiling, not as it used to be. It's rather stiff. So that is basically it.
That sounds like that affects breathing, then your ability to breathe.
Yes, it does.
Lots and lots of concerns following those interviews. 3 brave nurses who decided it was time to speak up. 2 doctors also spoke up, although we did protect their privacy. Now, one of the issues of discussion has been this team from UTech that had gone to the Cornwall Regional Hospital and produced a report on what they saw. And thank you, gentlemen, so much. Very much appreciate you talking to us. Let me start with you, if I could, then, Professor Davidson, in terms of the why it is the team went there.
Okay, first of all, the chief medical officer at the time was Dr. Delahaye, Winston Delahaye. And as a public health person, knowing the history of Cornwall Regional Hospital and knowing that such a situation was almost inevitable based on what has transpired over the past almost 40 years. We had known for some time that that hospital was in fact suffering from what we call a toxic building syndrome. And it started long before some of these manifestations are now being evident. There was a fundamental problem with the whole design of the hospital. The design of the hospital was that of a design, it was a European design that the World Bank, in fact, attempted to, well, that's what they sold us. And they took a European hospital and literally placed it in tropical Jamaica with all the features expected of a European design.
Like what?
For example, they put the boiler under the casualty department to heat it up during the winter. Now, there's no winter in Jamaica. And so in the summer, the casualty department had to be abandoned because it was just too hot. As a result, if you go to the hospital now, you will see a type 3 health center on the premises that had to be built to be used as a casualty department. Okay, that's one structural defect. The next structural defect was that after about a year and a half, all the pipes in the hospital started to burst and start to leak, etc. And the reason for this is that the standard of the plumbing was in accordance with the European standard where the water is known as soft water, that is low in calcium carbonate. So by putting in those systems, by the time the water in Jamaica with calcium carbonate, it coated up the whole plumbing system and they just started to burst. There are other problems that I don't really want to go in, but the elevator, the operating theater, the air conditioning systems, all of that. Do you know that the budget that we had for 28 hospitals, that budget, 60% of that budget had to be dealt with, had to be dealt with in Cornwall Regional.
And you're saying a lot of that was because of the design and the
design, serious design.
Okay.
As a result, Jamaica that had 28 hospitals at the time that that the Cornwall Regional Hospital was commissioned, now has 23. We had to close hospitals because the budget just could not extend to deal with all of those.
All right. I'm going to have to bring you on another day to talk more about the history, but I don't want to run out of time and not get to your report.
Yes, yes. The fact is that knowing that, we said, I got a team together of Dr. Bailey and Professor Dr. Bailey, who is a toxicologist in our unit, and also Professor Homero Silva, who is the environmentalist, and of course a statistician. And so we went to visit the hospital to do an observational study. And we spent the whole day in that observational study and documented everything.
All right, hold that thought. Let me bring in Dr. Bailey and ask him to pick up there a little bit.
Okay, to respond to your question, we were advised by a number of doctors from Cornwall Regional at the Medical Association of Jamaica meeting that doctors at the hospital were having some major problems. They were complaining of severe itching of the skin. They were complaining of shortness of breath. And in many cases, some of these doctors required to be nebulized beside the patients that they were treating. In fact, at one point in time, the head of the A&E department in the A&E department had to be nebulized beside one of the patients that she had just treated. We also, they complained of metallic taste in their mouth. They complained of headaches, dizziness, and recurrent wheezing episodes were some of the predominant symptoms that they complained of.
So this says to you, no, it's something we need to look at.
Pardon me?
So they said to you, no,
yes, no, we recognize that there was a problem.
Yes.
It so happened that that particular month, which is March, that we teach indoor air quality assessment at the School of Public Health and Health Technology. That's what I teach. And it fitted nicely into my lectures.
So like a field trip.
It was indeed. So we contacted the Chief Medical Officer and said, let's go to Cornwall Regional to see what's happening. And we went. We restored the facility from the basement to the 10th floor. We went everywhere, we saw everything, and we recognized some major hazards that were present, and we gave the ministry a list of possible pollutants that should be looked for, and we submitted this report to the Chief Medical Officer, And we stood by anticipating that there would be a favorable response.
Well, hold that thought a moment, and let's go to the major hazards, because you said it's an observational tour. So the notations you made are things that were there in plain sight.
Yeah, right.
Things that anybody could see walking
Absolutely.
through.
Yes.
And major issues of concern for you were what?
Okay. We recognize a number of things. Firstly, the boiler. There were two boilers at Cornwall Regional Hospital. One used liquid petroleum gas, the other one used bunker series, a heavy-duty sulfur-based fuel. We were quite curious because the basement smelled of sulfur. So we actually asked the engineer, where does the stack of the boiler enter the building? And we found to our amazement that the stack went through the building proper, all the way to the 10th floor. We also asked him what was the condition of the stack, and he said it was porous. So we said, so when the boiler emitted gases like sulfur dioxide, where does it go? He said it went through the building. We said, oh, that's rather strange. So I said, has this stack ever been fixed? He couldn't recall it being fixed. We found that particularly interesting, that the boiler stack ran through the building. We then asked him...
So that's not normal. Okay, hold that thought for me. I'm being told I have to take the break on this very interesting note, so I know you're going to stay with us because we'll be back. Remember our text line, it's 8953999. Give us your first name, give us your location, and tweet me as well, DJ Miller JA. Hashtag is TVJ All Angles. We'll soon come.